Hello, Swan Puncher here, playing Card Hunter, or rather having played Card Hunter. So I've condensed these next 3 adventures into one quicker video, and this is the Garnet Demon Portal. So so I had recorded the footage, but the sound didn't come out too great, so I wanted to re-record it. Unfortunately, someone was using a drill about 20 minutes into my recording, so it kind of didn't go well. And annoyingly, when I started recording other episodes through the day, people started using my neighbours were using drills again. So unfortunately, the sound didn't come out very well. So I just wanted to condense that, and let's talk about the game somewhat. So so we're fighting against these demons and these different demon types. Now, one advantage I do have over these demons is the fact that my wizard has resistant hide, which means that he doesn't take any elemental damage or any poison damage. So I'm using him in these fights as my kind of go-to guy. So he's going to be in the way, and the first guy that they see will always often be him, because he won't take any damage from any of their attacks. So I can literally use him however I wish. Now, one disadvantage with these guys is that they play a lot of encumbering effects, so you can see that my priest hasn't really moved and we're a few turns into the game. But that's because she actually has no movement because they've encumbered her so much with all those frost effects that she's got going on her. So, run. Oh, I'm hitting them. Okay, good times. It's kind of weird commentating at this kind of speed, so I either need to be like one of those auctioneers and just up the ante somewhat, but it's not my natural patter. Never mind. So it looks like we won that fight, got some random treasure, and got through the first fight fairly simply. So if you're going through that fight, I definitely recommend having resistant hide or on as many characters as possible, because it really does change the dynamic of the game, because they simply can't do you damage. So that would be one tip there for you. On the rare occasion that I do actually have a tip that's worth taking. So yet again on this fight, haven't yet drawn resistant hide, so I'm in a different bit of a quandary here, because I can't send my wizard in as bravely as I normally would, and I need to wait for him to actually draw the resistant hide, but he now has that, so he now isn't taking damage, so I can just go around, clean up, and just try and use the other characters to kill a few other creatures as soon as possible, because I only had one item that had resistant hide, so I couldn't give it to everyone. So I found this adventure relatively easy. The only thing with it was the next fight was a little bit tough, and I was a little bit close to dying, but managed to scrape through, because this was my first. I often record the first go through of a dungeon. On occasion I have been through the dungeon before, but you'll see that because you'll see it has got completed. So I might have on a couple of dungeons I've had a brief foray into them and realised and died, and then thought, well, that's probably not the best start to a video. But that's only on a couple of occasions. Again, you can tell when those are because the dialogue won't be there at the start from the GM. So these guys are, well, they're just imps, but again, the only real tip I'd say for them is for using using resistant hide, really, because while you can resist everything they can do, for some reason they don't seem to have any resistances of their own. So they are pretty prime for the taking, really. So I've pretty much got this one wrapped up with my flame attacks, and them not really doing me any damage. So they can damage everyone else, but just not my wizard. So we got through that, got him killed, and now on to the next adventure. So 3 of 5, battle 3 of 5. So this was the one I found tough, and I possibly picked the wrong tactic here, because as you can see, there's a wide open space that you can get your fighters into, and there's also these chicanes down the side where because the enemies are firing bolts at you, if you take one of the side paths, they won't be able to get you unless they're at the end of the side path, which kind of forces them into a location. Whereas the way I just went brute force and hoped for the best, and luckily it turned out okay, or maybe it didn't. I don't want to reveal too much, but obviously I kind of beat them. So as you can see, they're going to be evading a lot. They're going to be slowing me down using their frost magic, and luckily I was able to move the priest a little bit forward and managed to get the wizard in to be able to do a few attacks and hotspots and all the other things that I love to do. So managed to close the ground a bit with the wizard. So only 4 of them left at this time. The wizard unfortunately did die. He is a little bit squishy, but never mind. So from the brief moment that that I wasn't slowed, I managed to close distance with the priest, and then obviously once I'm in close combat with them, then really there's only going to be one outcome with this type of enemy, because they aren't supposed to, they're not designed for that kind of combat. So you want to close distance with them as soon as possible and deny them space. And I managed to force them into the corner, and that way they couldn't escape, and I could pretty much butcher them at my leisure. This fight was a bit interesting. This is fight 4 of 5. The reason being that there's a new element in it, and that there's the acid guy who gives you the green guy at the back. So he has a lot of poison based attacks, as you'd imagine, and yeah, he's an interesting opponent, but to be honest, he's pretty much of the same blend as the rest of them, except he's got an amazing blasting acid terrain attack. So I lost my warrior fairly early on, not a great start, and it always slows down the killing, but I managed to get through, I think, and I might have lost this battle, and I don't actually know from that side, but I'm pretty sure I won this. So I've got a lot of close combat, and my wizard was fairly injured. I didn't really want to send him into the fray and get killed, so I managed to move him around. That forced them to back off, so they ended up hiding. I had massive chop there, but I didn't want to use it on one character that was really low on death. Then I wall of stone, so I've already captured that guy on the left hand side, the top left frost demon. He's in his little panic room, although that's now gone. But yeah, using the wall of stone, I found that pretty handy. I have since dropped that from my repertoire, but it might be something I go back to. But I just felt that it was handy, but there were often occasions where it wasn't amazingly effective. So I went with something that I thought would be a bit better. So I'm facing down the last couple of opponents on this round. Have pretty much got them in a corner. They're not really going to be able to escape that, so I'm pretty sure they're gone. Okay, so, and I found something interesting, which was this thing. Okay, kind of cool acid spray. I mean, that's very handy if you're coming up against armoured opponents, and that's something that I don't tend to do much in the videos just because of the way I record, but it is something that if I would get stuck on something, which luckily I haven't really so far, but obviously tailoring your equipment to the specific encounter that you are facing would obviously give you advantages, because you'd be able to go, well, okay, these guys use armor, so I want to use a lot of acid and that kind of thing, whereas these guys use range, so I want to have a lot of protection, like resistant hide, so I'm not taking damage. Luckily at the moment my wizard is rocking the resistant hide, so he's not going to take damage, although there is one enemy type that you need to be wary of in this battle, even if you're rocking the resistant hide, and that is the arcane sprites, because they don't do elemental damage, they do arcane damage. So those guys were the first ones that I went to try and kill. So it's also got a few victory squares, so luckily I've managed to hold on to the victory squares for that time, although they did score a point. But then, it's really about pushing them out of that space and just trying to kill as many of them as quickly as possible, as always. So then Wall of Stone, although I'm suddenly now realising how handy Wall of Stone actually was and how often I was using it, because blocking off that guy's line of sight meant that he couldn't use ranged attacks and he was forced to come round, and in this case that meant an entire round where he wasn't actually firing any attacks upon me, which is always nice. So I managed to control the central area. Only need 2 more rounds at this point, or 2 kills. So they start closing the distance, but luckily I can, because I've already got control of the zone, I can get someone out. I have lost the... No, is the wizard dead? I can't see. I get a small... when I'm doing the voiceover afterwards, I get a smaller screen to actually view it on, so I can't see it quite so readily, but he is dead, I'm assuming, because I can't see him. Okay, so I managed to get through that round and that fight. So yeah, I mean, pretty much the same tips as before. Using resistant hide always helps. Okay, and what do we do next? Okay, well, I think that this is the next adventure, although helpfully it's the Dripping Grove. Yeah, I think that says. Okay, so here we've got a lot of ooze monsters and a skeleton. Now, skeletons I'm not a big fan of because of their only bones, or whatever the card is called, which means that they don't take damage from chops, slashing attacks and piercing attacks, so that can really limit your output, especially it can sometimes, depending on your weapon setup, it can render your warrior completely useless. And aside from that, you also have the extra element of the oozes only take damage from bludgeoning attack. Don't take damage from bludgeoning attacks even. So you can't go all bludgeoning because then you won't be doing any damage to the oozes, and you can't go all slashing and piercing because then you won't do any damage to the skeleton. So I managed to get through this one, luckily, because my warrior's pretty slashy piercy. And I'm not sure if the priest made it. I'm pretty sure they don't. It's funny the wizard dies because I often leave him. I often put him into situations which he really shouldn't be in. But I often do that sometimes to provoke attacks and to use enemy movement on him when I've got stronger cards and know that, you know, this type of enemy, I know that I can out damage them. As long as my priest's alive, I can out heal and out damage them. So I'm not so worried about, you know, about survivability of the wizard, because sure, he'll be good for range, but, you know, I think that I'll be fine and able to take them out otherwise. So I managed to take those guys down, fight one of this area out of the way, and getting items, neither of which seems amazing. So on to the next one. So this is the viscous caverns. I said coombs, but it's not really a word. Yeah. Okay, so this fight is against, we've got a new monster coming up here. We've got the yellow something or other, yellow puddings. Okay, it's funny, the enemies in this all sound delicious. So we've got yellow puddings, and they have an interesting ability where if they die, they will, well, sometimes if they draw the card, they will heal nearby allies. And there's also one which explodes, and although that's festering zombies actually. Yeah, so it's kind of, you know, it makes them a bit tougher, and it means you have to be wary of where you kill them, and you probably want to focus on one if they're together, and then take the other one out, and then the healing isn't actually healing them much if you haven't actually hit the other guy. So here I've managed to get rid of the yellow pudding, well, one of the yellow puddings. The other one's still alive, but I'm doing enough damage to be able to force him into a position where he's not able to move on me. My wizard's pretty hurt, but I like him for the ranged attacks on these guys. So then I go in, I'm trying to finish off one of the oozes, get them out of the way. That good old vicious thrust, 7 damage, always nice. And then right, so then I'm, you know, using electricity attacks and ranged attacks because they only have a range of 1. They're never going to get you from further away. So as long as you're out of their range, then they literally can't do anything about you. So mobility is also a plus. And, you know, I think that an elven party, this was an item of interest, and it's something that I'm pretty sure I use still. So, and also this I still use as well. Path of Knives I found brilliant because it does 2 damage per square that an enemy moves. So if you can set that on someone and then just keep moving away from them, and it lasts 2 turns, so you're going to get fairly good usage out of it. This fight I found troublesome, and this is probably my third attempt on this fight. So I had restarted a few times. I thought I'd cut those out for you. So yeah, this fight was a bit tough because you had the 2 tough skeletons that deal a lot of burning damage that takes time, you know, it does damage over time, and they were a bit tough to deal with, especially given that they've got only bones. So unless you can get rid of that, so either get rid of their armor using dissolve armor or acid or, you know, anything of that, wavering faith, but because they had a lot of hit points and they did a lot of damage and they could stop my fighter from really affecting them, so I ended up changing up my equipment to allow me to have more acid and, you know, things like that. And yeah, so I found that really helped with this fight. So I realised I'm being quite, you know, serious and talking about the game a lot rather than, but that's, you know, because of the nature of this video, so I'm less likely to make jokes in fast forward because I'm trying to keep pace. Okay, yet again I've ended up with a situation where I'm one character trying to survive in a world of hurt, and so this isn't really part of my tactical awareness. So okay, they're pretty healthy and I am not. Well, they're reasonably healthy, they're not healthier than me, but now they're pretty dead. Okay, so that's that fight, and I think that's that adventure. Yes, it is. Okay, so on to the next one, which is Melvin. Now this is a custom campaign that Gary made to mock Melvin. Now this one I found interesting. This first fight, you're facing a lot of enemies who have 5 hit points, and they also have resistant hide, as demonstrated there. Sorry, I hiccuped. And so that is the same thing that I was using, meaning they don't take elemental damage. What I found to work, because there's a victory square in the middle, and that's the only way you score points. You don't score points for killing them. So I found that blocking that area off, so putting a warrior on one of the paths where most of the cockroaches come from, and putting a priest there as well, meant that they weren't able to rush me, and that way I could keep them out. Because I had failed this the first time I played it, because I just let them overrun me and I hadn't really looked at it, because I looked at their hit points and thought, oh, they're just going to die. But unfortunately, because of their numbers and the abilities they have, or rather the fact that my wizard wasn't able to do them as much damage as he normally would, except without making them discard things, meant that they were a tougher opponent than I'd initially anticipated. So their resistant hide coming up, managed to kill one of the groups, and the other one is pretty much being fended off. So getting 3 points, halfway to victory, but to be honest they're mostly dead, so they should be out of the way fairly soon. Especially if I manage to make them, in fact I got rid of their armour, so my electric attacks will do damage. So on to battle 2 of this one, finding a rare item. Ooh, I like those hacks, but they're not the best ones. Okay, so this one, you start off with Melvin, his first introduction as a monster, and he's sat there on a victory position, and you've got a very thin causeway with 8 cockroaches in the way. Now again, they have the same abilities as last time in resistant hide, but as always there's a chance they don't draw it, so you're kind of, if they've got it and you've got a lot of elemental attacks, then you're pretty much up against it. But if they haven't drawn it, then you can make a bit of a cut into it. I mean, obviously different setups where you don't use elemental attacks and things like that would possibly be worth it, but I haven't tailored my attacks to this group. So my tactic was to try and punch through the cockroaches as quickly as possible and get down the other end and stop him. The other thing you need to be wary of is that obviously he's scoring points all along. So if you're, and it normally it can take between 4 and 5 turns for a level appropriate party to get through the initial cockroach infestation. So once you get down there, you need to make sure you don't let someone die, because that could be the difference between you having the time to take him out and the ability to take him out, and then suddenly finding yourself unable to actually kill him, or rather instantly losing the game because someone dies, and then that ticks it over enough. So I'm managing to block off the last remaining cockroach and pretty much planning my assault on Melvin. He's got, I think, 20 hit points. Yep. And so ranged attacks I found worked well. The other thing to note is that if you have a mobile party, you can get in through the difficult ground on the left-hand side of the map. And I do really love these hand-drawn maps, because that's what I remember from playing D&D, with friends, and it just that honestly brings back so much for me, because because one of my friends was a very good GM, and he'd draw up all these intricate maps and have all this awesome stuff, and it was really nice seeing all this artwork, this kind of artwork, and it was nice to see it in practice. So they're still alive, but he's gone. Okay, so he was only 2 points from victory there, which, as you can see, would mean that if I had died, then I would have lost. So I had to keep all characters alive at that point. So now I'm going through equipment, finding out and checking it out, because at the moment I'm trying to get the fight wizard to be more combat oriented in this round. Now this battle took me a lot of tries, happy to admit that, because I probably sat there for an hour on this battle alone the first time I gave it a go. And the reason is, you start with a split party, so you have one character in a kind of throne room or chapel with Melvin, the boss, and you have a door that is immovable and it has armour, and you need to destroy it in order to be able to reunite your party. You've also got 10 cockroaches all around you who have the resistant hide, so depending on your setups then and whether you can discard their armour means that you're fighting a very different fight. So you need to be able to take them out as soon as possible, or even focus on one group and lower their card draw, really, to be able to affect that. So so now I've retreated from half of them. I think I've got half of them, almost half of them dead. Well, about to be half of them. So that way I'm managing to keep them off. I've now sealed myself in. That was quite handy, because that meant that all the cockroaches suddenly started going for him. He died, sadly, probably because everyone else was locked behind a door and everything had to go for him. Oh no, sorry, he's not dead. Sorry, on the screen. He's hidden. So I ran him away bravely. And yeah, so using up bad medicine, those kind of things worked. Again, these guys have got a lot of poison attacks, so having a healer who can heal a lot is very worth it. Okay, and otherwise acid blast, anything to get rid of armor. But really the main guy, Melvin, he's got a lot of poison area attacks which are very hard to contend with, and so you will often find yourself, you want to keep your party as split as possible when approaching him, so that if you're hit, then at least it's not all of you getting hit at the same time. So I tried to keep distance with him and keep walls and barricades in between to block line of sight so that he can't get you with his attacks. So I've managed to clear everyone else out, and now it's pretty much, there's one cockroach who I've trapped behind another wall of stone, so he's just sat there, although he's now got out. But now I'm in close combat with Melvin, got all the cockroaches down. I would say that clearing the cockroaches out and keeping as much distance between yourself and Melvin as possible is very much worth doing. So yeah, I think that's almost it. So yeah, we've pretty much got him on the ropes, and he will be gone fairly soon. So normally the next episode will be back to normal, back to talking while playing, rather than this sped up kind of serious chat on it. And yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching. Like if you like, subscribe if you like more. And I don't normally have as much a vocal tactical approach on it. I normally keep that internalized, but thank you very much. Cheers, bye.